Hello, children. Hello, my little loved ones. I will pet every single one of you at the end of this episode. Welcome to Box Office Addict, the top box office analysis on the internet. No one else competes. We're number one. We're the best. Sorry to all the other box office analysts out there. I know you've been trying. I know it's been hard for you. I know having to live in the shadow of what I've done here over these last few years has been very difficult. I understand you're like Will Smith in Independence Day when the UFO's floating over top and it's all you can see. But I don't know. Somebody has to be second and third place. That's just life. It's not fair. Speaking of not fair, the box office has been unpredictable so far in 2023. We've had expected hits perform well. John Wick has done well. Obviously, a lot of us thought the Mario movie was going to perform well, and it has. But some movies, it was hard to gauge. It's still hard to gauge. Like the tracking for Oppenheimer and Barbie, I have no idea how those are going to do. So far, the tracking for projects coming out later in the year. Who knows how the Hunger Games like prequel's gonna do? I don't freaking know. I think it might do okay. I don't know what the budget is. It's hard to really tell with some of these movies, and The Little Mermaid was one of these movies. The Little Mermaid was certainly a film where there was a lot of questions going into it. So you have Rob Marshall returning, who has worked at Disney before. He directed the fourth Pirates of the Caribbean film, which made $1 billion. I don't think that had anything to do with him. I think that was just because that franchise was so popular at the time. He directed the Mary Poppins Returns movie, which did okay. And then he directed Into the Woods, the adaptation of the Stephen Sondheim musical, which did well too. Most of the time, his films get pretty mixed reviews. Of course, he's most famous for directing the Academy Award winning film Chicago. I'll say this out front. I don't like Rob Marshall. I've never liked Rob Marshall. I don't like his direction in any of his works. I don't think he does a good job with Chicago. And I don't even hate Chicago. Don't get me wrong. Renee Zellweger and Catherine Zeta-Jones are amazing in that movie. The music is good. The choreography's good. I believe he was a choreographer beforehand. But I really have never liked him. I don't like his style. I don't like Memoirs of a Geisha. He can make a movie look pretty, but he's also like the most kind of generic, flat, commercialist kind of filmmaker out there. He has no personality in his filmmaking. So of course Disney loves this guy. He's like Sam Mendes' less talented little brother, is how he feels to me. There was interesting names attached to this project at one point. Sofia Coppola. I think this could have been a more cerebral, experimental, quite frankly, visually at least, film that actually did do something kind of unique and different with its water photography. I gotta say, this did well, but it didn't quite perform up to what they were thinking. There was hype going into the weekend, like, oh, the film's gonna overperform and make 125 to 130 over the holiday. It looks like the 3-day week it's gonna be huge, but it started to slow down from Friday going into Sunday. Also, the reviews are very skewed. There's a lot of the movie sucks, but I don't want to call her Halle Berry. I know that's not her name. It's like Haley Berry, or the girl who's playing Ariel. And all the reviews are like, she's a star. She makes the movie. She's amazing. And she's going to be in the Color of Purple musical that's coming out this year. I'm skeptical of that. It feels like critics didn't want to give this negative reviews because of her. Because of the controversy, which I won't go too far into, with the casting of Ariel, that became an internet thing where it was very predictable when the trailer came out that people were going to start saying, oh, racists don't like this movie. And that was just a bad narrative spin. It's never a good idea to go in with that kind of attitude, because it just sets the movie up to be, if it does fail, it makes you look bad for trying to kind of make this argument that this is why people don't like the film, as opposed to actually talking about maybe if the film isn't good or not, is the real question here. Because I looked at a lot of the reviews, and there was a lot of coping where it was like a 3 out of 5 star review, and it was essentially saying the film was about as bland and generic as possible, but you could just tell the critic didn't want to give it that like 2-star review because they didn't want to feed into this controversy. 117 million is not bad over the 4-day, but it did drop, and it does seem to me, at least as of right now, but I have been wrong. Guardians 3 is an example of this, where I said, well, I don't know if this did well enough. I don't know if this can pick up, and the film's been doing really well. People like it. I don't think this is going to have the reception of Guardians 3, though. This is opened to 117.5. It's not bad, but I also don't think this is going to perform on par with Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, any of the ones that made like $1.5 billion. I think that's out the window now. I think the international number is really disappointing. 68.3 million. It did not open as well in some markets as they were expecting. 185 million worldwide opening is solid. This film will certainly make $500 million, probably more than that. But I don't think $1 billion's locked up like the studio and a lot of analysts thought. I don't think the reception is there. And there might even be a race factor playing into this in some other countries. It does seem like in some other countries, people aren't going to see the film because of that, which is just an unfortunate thing we have to deal with sometimes. Uh, Black-led films don't perform well in certain countries globally, and they even change the marketing for the movies. They'll change a poster. Like, for instance, in China, they will take a black character out of a poster or try to minimize it, so their audience is more receptive to it. And that's just an unfortunate thing we have to deal with a global audience, is that things aren't the politics in this country aren't the politics in every country, obviously. Let's talk about Fast X real quick. Had an okay opening. This franchise has been diminishing returns for the last few movies domestically. The previous film, I think made like 170 million domestically, and even the one before that, that came out after Furious 7. I think the Fate of the Furious was that one. It didn't perform as well domestically. It made about 200 million, but it still made over $1 billion. They really have to rely on the international box office for the franchise now. I'm trying to figure out where the money's coming from. They must just make so much off this as a franchise with theme parks and merchandising, because, you know, the budgets for these films are insane. I mean, they're $300 million movies now. Vin Diesel makes like $100 million to produce these films. And they're bringing The Rock back. And then he was saying they're going to do two more now. This is going to be a trilogy of films to end the series, because I kept thinking that Fast X was going to be the end of the series. Don't get me wrong, it's at 500 million, but they're not at break even yet. They spent a lot on this. And then domestically, once again, it looks like this film isn't going to perform as well as the franchise was doing at one point, where, $250 million was very feasible. So I'm curious to see where this ends up. I don't think this is going to do much better than the ninth film. Guardians of the Galaxy 3, I'm going to have to eat crow on. I was wrong about after the opening weekend of 118 million. I thought that's not great. The reviews, it's the worst reviewed of the three by critics, although I think a lot of people would say this was a better film than Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. But then you started to see on Twitter and in other places people praising the film and James Gunn. A lot of people like this movie. I think it being the end of this series of films is really helping it. It's kind of the best received MCU film in a minute. I would say probably since Spider-Man No Way Home, this is the one that people seem to be enjoying the most as a movie. So it looks like this is going to perform more on par with Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which is good news for Disney. Yes, this film cost $250 million. Yes, James Gunn is leaving Marvel. Yes, there's not going to be any more Guardians films. Yes, this does not change the downward trajectory that we're on. But still, this is good for James Gunn. He needed this after Suicide Squad bombed. He's going into DC now with this to write off of. This is great for Chris Pratt with this and Mario. So this has just been doing really well. The second weekend, which I didn't cover last week, was $60 million, $62 million, which is one of the best holds the MCU's ever had, 47.6%. That was a game changer. Then another 47, then 37. This film is doing well with people. It should outgross the first film, 775 million, which I said I didn't know if it would do. And I think it's very feasible that this could make or outgross even Guardians of the Galaxy 2's 870 million. We'll have to wait and see. I'd say 850 million is certainly in play, but I wouldn't be shocked if this film does better, because it is holding extremely well. And I think that it's going to kind of stay in the top 10 for a while. Super Mario Brothers, 1.3 billion is guaranteed now. That's where it's heading. It's slowed down a bit domestically. It looks like $600 million is kind of running out of steam here, but still, this movie's already made so much money, it's kind of irrelevant. The Machine, starring Burt Kreschner and Mark Hamill, 9 million over the holiday week. Honestly, not terrible considering that he's not a movie star and this film's just had, minimal marketing. Um, Evil Dead Rise has still done very well. It's made 142 million worldwide. I would say that sequels are inbound with that franchise. John Wick 4 continues to be a juggernaut internationally. It will pass 430 million worldwide. So it's easy to just say that's a huge success, even if domestically it was a little disappointing after its opening weekend. And outside of that, there's not much to talk about. The real story here is certain franchises or big IPs kind of competing for the summer market and where it's going. If you see there, you have Universal with Mario and Fast X, and then you have Disney with Guardians 3 and The Little Mermaid. This is typical for the summer, and then Sony has The Machine. But this is typical for the summer movie season. I think a few years ago, all of these movies would have done even better, excluding maybe Mario. I think that's pretty peak, but I think Little Mermaid would have opened higher in 2018, 2019. I think Fast X, obviously, that franchise was more popular a few years ago. So really what I'm taking for this is we're getting a war between Universal and Disney right now, when it comes to the box office. And right now I'm giving Universal the edge because of Mario. And then Chris Pratt having two films in the top five. But I just don't think Little Mermaid. I could be wrong again. Maybe it'll hold well, 30% drops, and I'll be wrong, and it'll make like 1.3 billion. So I'm open to being wrong. But right now, pretty disappointing. I don't think this was the huge. I think they thought this was going to open to $150 million, and I really think they thought there was hype for this. And I think the hype, if there was any, kind of died down. I just don't think the marketing was good for that movie. I don't think the trailers were appealing. I don't think people like the new productions on the songs. I think the hype about Lin-Manuel Miranda has died from overexposure. I like Hamilton. I like In the Heights. I like the Moana music, but I like Mary Poppins Returns. They just attach him to everything, and it's just really hurt the allure of his name. It's not exciting to be like, oh, Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote music for a Disney film. Now, if he does another play, yes, I think that would be a big deal and would be exciting, and he would make a lot of money. But I think he's probably, I could be wrong, I feel like he's saving a lot of his good stuff, his good material, or what he has in the tank for his own stuff and not to give it away to Disney. Because he hasn't really produced any, like, he's done some stuff, don't get me wrong, but they just keep milking that cow, man. And I don't think it's gonna work. And I think they just approached this Little Mermaid thing from a poor optics perspective. It's not gonna be a bomb, but Disney really needed this to be like a big event movie. It needed to be a big film in the summer, and it just looks like it's not gonna go that way. Meanwhile, Guardians 3 looks like it is kind of turning more into the film that they needed right now. So that's really interesting. Couple things before we go. Started a new channel. It's not going to affect the content upload on this channel. Just trying to diversify content so my channel isn't as scattered. So it's called Cable Classics. We just started it. So there we're going to be uploading the commentaries that I've just started doing, movie nights with my friends in the Discord and stuff, where like 5 or 6 of us watch a movie and we make fun of it, sort of in a vein of an Mystery Science Theater 3000. So we're going to be uploading those on Cable Classics, the channel. If you could go over there and please subscribe and go like the videos. That doesn't mean I won't be uploading content like that on this channel, but it might be different. It might be shorter. I might just be uploading clips on here. But I'm going to primarily focus that content on that channel, and it's going to be more focused in its theme, where this channel can be whatever I want to talk about. Box Office Addict also might continue on a separate channel, because sometimes I want to do day-to-day stuff or talk about predictions or stuff in the news about the box office, and I just don't want to put all of that on the Please Rewind channel, because I think the Please Rewind channel itself has gotten a little messy, where it's sort of like, okay, is it video essays, is it commentary, is it box office analysis? Not that you can't encapsulate all those things in a channel. There's plenty, like Clownfish TV comes to mind, they do that. But there might be some rebranding, and I think the algorithm's sort of against me with certain things. So I would rather do main focus dedicated channels to those topics, for some people who are more interested in hearing me just kind of be funny or to do more deep dive in my analysis. So look out for that. Cable Classics is just the beginning, and I might start another channel just for podcasting separately, to be quite frank. That way, at least on Please Rewind, when I upload something here, it is a Please Rewind video, and it's something I'm really passionate about that I want to put time into. That is more in the vein of the classic kind of videos I'm doing here. But yeah, please go subscribe to that channel. I'll put a link in the description. It would mean a lot to me. There's also a Reddit page for that show, and we're going to continue to try to promote that and build that channel up. The goal is to get that channel up to, like, a few thousand subscribers by the end of the year. I don't have high ambitions for it, but I have a lot of fun doing it, and it would be cool to have kind of a community over there as well. Anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I appreciate all of you guys. And, I know that sometimes the passion doesn't always seem to be there, but you got to understand that, I'm doing like 30 things every day, and I'm just trying to fit in what I can when I have time. And the only reason I do stuff for the most part is out of enjoyment. And I do enjoy doing the show. I do enjoy talking about the box office. And I do enjoy all of you that comment and say nice things or have your own points of view that I find very interesting. So I just know that, I'm not going anywhere. It's just I'm kind of in a phase of trying to figure out what exactly to do with my content and how I'm going to produce the content, and maybe more of having more people involved instead of me doing everything by myself, and spreading it out over different kind of channels. So, you know, I don't get stuck doing one thing forever. But that's all. Thank you.